Is the lore of Nehekhara any good in patch 5.2? I decided that I needed a video for the lore separate from my upcoming Lich Priest and Citra video for one-stop shopping and reference, especially since Lich Priests can get 2 other lores default, 1 more with a Book of Nagash, so they can do lots of other stuff too. Before even starting the spells, let's math hammer with the Restless Dead, the passive you quickly acquire. This causes map-wide regeneration for 6 seconds for 0.20% of health per second, as in 1.2% total, even if it's a Master Dejaf spell that costs 2 measly winds of magic. However, the limitation is that it covers friendly undead units only. Constructs, such as the Bone Giant, do not apply, or rather the healing does not apply to them. This can resurrect models if they died in that battle. To the best of what people have tested and proven, you cannot resurrect entities that were not animated at the start of the current battle. I'll mostly deal with this in Lord videos, but the end of the Redline skills, Reanimate Upgraded, is 0.8% healing per second for 10 seconds, and applies to all friendlies within range, including constructs, but does not reanimate fallen undead entities. But the Restless Dead doesn't reanimate such entities unless the existing ones are fully healed. You see where this is going. So keep this in mind. All Tomb King characters are treated as undead regardless of mount. Dejaf's Incantation of Cursed Blades is your initial spell and your bread and butter, providing a single target, 200 range, 25 seconds duration, and 28-second cooldown after that duration, providing plus 25% base and armor-piercing weapon strength that is melee damage. The Overcast version adds plus 16 bonus versus large on any unit you cast it on, regardless of whether that unit had such a bonus beforehand or not. This has diminishing returns with low armor-piercing units, and increasing returns on high armor-piercing units, but damage is welcome regardless. It's 3 wins to cast default, 5 overcast, but Citra with his mastered is flinging it at 2 wins all the time. Nero's Incantation of Protection is likewise 200 meters and costs 6 wins normally, 10 overcast, making a single target 40% resistant to physical damage for 18 seconds, or 36 seconds if overcast. Now, Tomb Kings, the generals and lords themselves, can stack physical resistance as it is, particularly the legendary lords. Also, Tomb Princes offer Guardian within radius. This spell encourages you to be acutely aware of whether you're facing magical attack or not. 30-second cooldown once the spell ends. Petra's Incantation of Righteous Smiting is single target, and that's a theme for now. 6 wins normal, 10 overcast, 200 meters range, and can only be cast on missile units to keep this from being wasted. For 32 seconds, 43-second cooldown, the target is plus 40% base and plus 40% armor-piercing missile damage, which will immensely raise the hitting power of something like a Casket of Souls, though that might be overkill. Ushabti with great bows will utterly wreck like this. Even more potent, the Overcast version adds plus 40 reload skill, and while I don't have math to say what that means exactly, it's firing faster, and most reload boosts from heroes are way smaller. Though Khalida does it in an aura, and this is cumulative. Usirion's Incantation of Vengeance is only 100 meters, 9 wins normally, 13 overcast. Offensively, it's supposed to do 62 to 125 damage per second, depending on which unit scale you use, 24-second duration, 36-second cooldown, which is not the damage a Fate of Yuna does, but it comes with a 25% speed debuff. Overcast, this supersizes to a minus 45% speed debuff, and while that doesn't turn this into a net, if you're slowing Scarbrand down, you'll find it worth it. If there's another theme here, it's doing things that some other lores are doing, not necessarily as powerfully, but also not necessarily as costly, with something thrown in for variety. Sekhmet's Incantation of the Skullstorm comes at 11 wins base, 17 wins overcast, 150 meter range, and creates a 7 meter radius, not diameter, radius, vortex that moves at 3 meters per second, in an era when most other vortex spells have been slowed down when they're ones that move. For 21 damage per entity per second with 0 armor penetration and doing both magical and flaming damage, meaning do not expect serious results against Chaos Dwarfs or Khorne anything. Duration is 27 seconds, 49-second cooldown, and neither of these can be extended. Overcasting just raises the radius to 10 meters instead. So, what I'm saying is that besides the damage details, it's one of the more unreliable vortexes out there, and obviously CA likes it that way. You want a vortex staying in place? Get Shadow for Pit of Shades. Want the more controllable Banishment and Purple Sun? Get those lures. You are not going to get a comet to clean a blob in a consistent manner like this. I mean, if it helps, great. And if you're using Chariot or Construct Tar Pits to have minimal damage to your own entities, that's also great. And if it's Carrion, you don't care anyway. But this is an inferior Vortex spell, full stop. So what about the last spell? Oh yeah, it's Useka's Incantation of Desiccation. I won't say that again. 15 winds, 21 winds overcast, a long 200-meter range, a 35-meter wide radius only. And for 38 seconds, 51-second cooldown, enemies are minus 24 melee defense and minus 24 melee attack. So the beast's equivalent, the Curse of Arna here, does both debuffs to melee, also minus 30 accuracy for ranged, also minus 25% for speed, at 11 winds normal, 14 winds overcast, for 21 seconds duration and 47 seconds cooldown. The upgraded version magnifies the radius to 55 meters. Impressive, huh? Sure, the desiccation lasts for longer, but it costs more. So what does overcasting it do? Oh, it debuffs melee attack by 40 instead of 24. That's all. Let me say that more slowly. Minus 24 melee defense is the moral equivalent of giving plus 24 melee attack to all of your guys engaged in melee within that bubble. Minus 24 melee attack would reduce an Empire Swordsman's melee attack to 8, that is, rank 0 default. Minus 40 melee attack would reduce bog standard rank 0 Chaos Warriors of Khorne, with Frenzy active, melee attack 46 to melee attack 6. More to the point, what's the battle complaint with this faction generally? Melee attack too low, melee defense too low, constructs with high damage but their stats aren't high enough. This one spell completely flips that script. Yes, in only a 70-meter diameter, but 38 seconds is an awful long time compared to the 21 seconds of that Lore of Beasts Hex. In my view, this Hex Curse is one of the best in the entire game. I mean, it's significantly more expensive than the budget Vortex spell Skullstorm, which, if you're facing a Halberdier's Blob, certainly might be able to rack up some damage, but this is not the lore you're going to get ideal Vortex spell results from. That's because of the reliability and squiggliness of the Skullstorm. If you look at the damage is exceptional. The problem is that 0% is armor piercing. Well, no, the problem is that it won't move in a pattern that you'd prefer. Yes, that. But what it actually moves over, it really hurts. At least if it's not, super armored. And a lot of what you'd love to use this on with non-existent armor, like Slayers, resists magic heavily, but even 35% spell resistance is a math hammer. Rounded up, it's 14 points of damage per second per entity. Standard Slayers are 108 health per entity. There is no further reduction of the damage from this unless, there's Slayers with fire resistance. That does exist. And there might be other buffs as well. So while it's random and the broad rectangle of Slayers might luck out, the ones actually hit by the storm are going to have a really bad time. Banishment and Purple Sun both have 12-meter radius, which is why they're used as blob destroyers, so you have more consistent damage over larger blobs. But it's just to say, even with all my infuriated frustrations with it, making me wave an angry fist at the sky like an old man, sometimes it's completely worth rolling that dice. And if it's not, this is the lore for buffing an undead army for the Tomb Kings, though some of its spells are really good for buffing constructs, either directly or indirectly through mass debuffing an enemy blob. So, put better, this is the lore for healing an undead army on the side while making your best units stronger, or making the enemy's best units eat direct damage at a speed debuff or a mass melee attack and defense debuff. And through it all, you can fling 2 wins for a Dejaf Cursed Blades and give something a 25% melee damage boost. Or you can make an Ushabti Great Bow unit into a murder machine even more than it already is. This is what you can do with the lore of Nehekhara. Some of it's stolen from other lores, but some of it is different and better, yet somehow limited like with the single target spells. Then you just have that high base damage, unreliable as all hell, tornado vortex spell, and that controllable, reliable, utterly amazing turn the tide of battle, 38-second duration curse, Hex. Forget about how other lores work with other factions. This is for the Tomb Kings alone. It is the perfect lore for a hybrid army, regardless of whether it is construct light or construct heavy. For construct light, there is a lot of reason to use this lore. For construct heavy, I can see the other lores mattering a great deal too. Take care, and have fun making the opponent eat tornadoes filled with rapidly moving skulls. At a high enough velocity, even a piece of straw can pierce your chest. Imagine what a skull can do.